channel. I'm out in the garage. I know it's been a while since I posted a video. I've been working so hard to figure out a few remaining details on the go-kart. I have fabricated the shift mechanism. So that is all ready to go. Forward will be downshift. That'll go up. Back will go down. This is a 1 up, 4 down, 5 down gear Suzuki motor. Haven't done much on the motor. Haven't even started it up. But I was having issues with the carburetor. I have a new one of those, so we're going to be swapping that out. And then I had an issue. I needed a new sprocket. The old sprocket that went on here is the right tooth and pitch, but the gear is too wide for the chain I got and for the sprocket on the bike or motor, which I did get a new sprocket, cleaned up the mechanism that keeps it on, painted it black, got it all looking nice. Sprocket is new. Now when you change the sprocket, like a rear sprocket on a bike, they suggest you also change the front sprocket. That way you don't introduce some bad wear with some good wear on a new chain. Mine looked good, but I figured what the heck, it wasn't too expensive, so I got a new sprocket for the motor side and a new rear sprocket. Here is my rear sprocket. You can tell it's quite a bit different than the original one. The bolt holes didn't line up with what was on the bike. So what I did is I had to fabricate my own split sprocket, so to speak. This is basically a split that'll adapt to the old, will adapt to the axle and adapt to the new sprocket. So at this point, now I'm gonna put this on and get it lined up and then get the chain on. Excited about that, how that turned out. If you noticed while I was doing it, you can see some spacers in here. The original sprocket was attached to this, but since I had to create this split socket, I had to spacer it out the width of the new sprocket because I didn't want that, I couldn't have it sit flush. So I just got some spacers in there, 1/4 inch spacers, to make sure that the main sprocket was still lined up with the motor sprocket. That lined up really well. And then I used lock nuts on every one of these, washers, flush sitting bolts for the sprocket. It's not 100% if you watch. It's got a little bit of lift in there, but I don't think that's a big deal. I guess we'll find out when we start riding it. I just marked these so that I knew which end of the split sprocket lined up with this other sprocket. I got all of these bolts except for one. I can't remember which one exactly it was. It was one of these. I had to just oversize it just a hair to get all the bolts to fit in, but it's looking pretty good. Really excited about that. There is one other thing I've got to do. If you noticed, I got the chain on, but there's a lot of slack. There's, from what I counted, 6 links I've got to remove from the chain to get the size I want. But I'm also going to come up with some sort of mechanism, probably just come up and over here to kind of give some tension on that. I'm planning on doing some sort of spring-loaded tensioner so I can keep that tension on the chain. Not quite sure what exactly I'm going to do. Haven't thought that far ahead, just kind of spinning some ideas up in my head. I want something spring-loaded, something that the chain will slide on. So I'm gonna have to do some research, come up with something. I'll probably have to fabricate something, but hopefully I can come up with something that'll work long-term and keep that chain nice and tight, so when we're riding around and the rear end is hitting bumps and doing its thing, that chain tensioner will still tension so the chain doesn't come off. So let me just show you a little bit more what I've been doing. Into the gear shift mechanism, basically got some steel rod, some steel spacers that I bolted these eye bolts into. I wanted something that could adjust, so I can loosen this up. I can spin them out or in. I just welded this together, painted it so it wouldn't rust, repainted this baby, and I put a threaded bolt stock into here, welded it on so that I could adjust this way, whatever I needed to do. And then I basically did the same thing. So this threaded rod is the same that's back there, and then this side is the same. I can adjust the eye bolt, and then I just put washers on each side. There's also a spacer inside here, so there's no slot between that eye bolt. I got the spacer I needed, and then I just drilled it so it would fit this 1/2 inch threaded rod. I do need to tighten these bolts up. I'll probably put some Loctite on them so they don't move. I do have a lock nut right here on this side. I also added a rear view mirror that hopefully is not in the way of a head. I'm thinking my head will sit about here, which will be under that, and I can still look up and see the rear view mirror. Other than that, I got new carburetor and a new seat belt. Let's go ahead and put that on. Seatbelt is on. I'll go ahead and adjust it later, but I am going to tighten these down. I went with this kind of bolt mainly because they were cheaper. They still hold up to 700 pounds each, so that should be plenty of strength. There's 4 of them, so multiply by 4, 7, what, 14, 21, 28, 2,800 pounds pressure.